Hey, this is Jerry Lynn, and you're listening to Interactive Interview.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Interactive Interview on the interactiveinterview.com, courtesy of WrestlingNation.com. I'm James Walsh, joined as always by Daniel Edler, and this is the long-awaited interview with Jerry Lynn.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing real good.
Doing good, thanks.
Hey Daniel.
I'm doing awesome.
We've had literally, this is probably going to be the most questions we've had submitted. We've put up about your interview a few weeks ago on the website, and we had absolutely, from the chat forums, we've had many questions, from the emails we've had so many questions, so hopefully we'll be able to do you justice with the questions we're coming up. So,
cool. All right.
Okay, first let's get started with the basics. First of all, were you a wrestling fan growing up?
Oh yeah, ever since I was 6, my first wrestling, and then I knew I was hooked right away. And every weekend it was roller derby and then wrestling.
And who were your favorites when you were growing up?
Oh, guys like Baron von Raschke and the Crusher and Mad Dog Vachon. I grew up in Minneapolis, so I got to see the AWA.
How did you decide to be a wrestler?
I just sort of fell into it one day. My ex-wife was working with a gal who started dating a wrestler, so we went to go watch him on an indie show, and after seeing the show, I thought, man, my brother and I did better than this in our backyard, so I just found out about a training camp and decided to give it a shot.
Who did train you?
Brad Ringens. He was an Olympic wrestler and had wrestled for the AWA in New Japan for a bit.
Dan, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. Who were some of your favorites as you were a child?
You just said.
Who were my favorites?
Yeah.
Oh, he just asked me.
Yeah, I know. That's what I just said. I'm sorry, Dan. I kind of cut you off there.
Yeah.
We have him in a row of questions, and I think he didn't hear me ask that one.
I've got it on my list. I've got it listed about 4 times. So
Yeah, I know.
There's no questions I really wanted. You worked with the Global Wrestling Federation, GWF. How's it like working back there, and how was Sean Morton to work with?
Oh, he was always great. I mean, he had, when he first moved to Minneapolis, he and I would get together every day and watch Japan tapes and Mexican tapes and whatever wrestling we could find and try and get better. And before Global, we had actually wrestled each other for 2 years straight on the indie scene up there, and then finally they brought us down to Global, and we got to renew our feud down there.
What was your opinion of working in the Sportatorium?
It was awesome because the building was so nostalgic and had so much history behind it. And I remember watching the old the old WCCW World Class Championship Wrestling and the Von Erichs and Freebird feud, and it was just great to be able to go in there and wrestle in that same building.
What was the booking like back then? Who was the bookers and?
Oh, then it was Bill Eadie and Eddie Gilbert. He was also another one of my favorites. Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert.
Right. Why do you think that company ended up folding?
Just finances. They got cheap and didn't want to fly anyone anymore, so they just used local. The product just eventually took a turn for the worse and just eventually folded.
Where did you go as soon as when Global closed and when you left Global?
After Global, I moved back up to Minneapolis and just doing the indies, and I was going to Japan quite a bit.
How did you end up working for World Championship Wrestling?
Brad Ringens, the guy who trained me, asked me, he had a training camp going, and he asked me to come out and help him. So I was helping him train the guys and stuff, and then finally I asked him one day, I said, it's been 7.5 years. I'm like, what do I got to do to get a break? And he said, well, it's all TV now. He said, you got to come up with something flashy, and that'll catch someone's eye when they're channel surfing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'd been in Japan, I'd seen so many cool outfits, and I thought, well, I hadn't seen any in the States like that. So I came up with the JL outfit and showed Brad, and he thought it was great. So we pitched it to WCW, and they said that's exactly what they've been looking for. So they brought me in, and then I think on a live nitro I broke my arm. So I was off for about 9 weeks, and I came back, and then by the time I came back, they brought in all the Mexicans, so a mask really didn't mean anything anymore.
Who did you break your arm against?
Dean Malenko.
I remember that match. Dan, you want to take the next one?
Was it your idea to be called Mr. JL on WWE?
No. They asked me what I wanted to be called, and I was throwing out all these different names, like the Phantasm and stuff like that. They said, well, they didn't want to just slap a name on me without researching any copyright infringements, so Kevin Sullivan was the booker at the time, and he just said, what the hell, I'll call him Mr. JL, and I knew it was the beginning of the end.
Oh, wow.
Did you feel that WWE was a plus for your career, or definitely not?
I guess it was just a learning experience, so you could say it was a plus. It definitely wasn't fun. It wasn't a good time, but, you know, it was a learning experience, so it helped in the long run, I guess.
Dan, take the next one.
You worked a Raw match with Taka Michinoku, and then shortly headed off to the ECW. How did that all play out?
Well, as soon as I was done with WCW, I was calling up JR. Actually, I wasn't even calling JR. I was just calling the WWF office. I think I was mostly talking with Bruce Pritchard and just trying to get a tryout or something. So I just kept bugging them, and finally they called and asked me to come to Chicago and work Taka. So I did that, and then after the match, everyone seemed to love it, and everyone was all hyped up. And but at the time, JR told me that, you know, they couldn't really promise me anything at the time because they were just trying to get the light heavyweight thing off the ground, which they never ended up doing anyway.
Right.
But so as soon as that aired on TV, I guess Paulie, they realized that I was available, that I wasn't in WCW anymore, so they contacted me and asked me to start working for them. So I did. And then I think it was after I already committed to ECW, someone called me up and said I was on Raw, and I said, well, I couldn't be. I didn't do any TV tapings. And they said, well, your name's in brackets for the light heavyweight tournament. So they just assumed that I was going to be in the light heavyweight tournament without even asking me. And I'd already committed to Paulie, so I didn't do the tournament.
Yeah.
Well, JR asked me what happened after the tournament, and I told him, you know, I was already committed. And he said, that he just wished me the best and said that I still had an open door there when I was done with ECW.
Do you think that had anything to do with your most recent run there, or was that completely separate?
No, that was completely separate.
Some of your early matches in ECW were against Just Incredible. What were your memories of working with Justin?
Awesome. It was great. He was so easy to, his style and my style just clicked really well, and he was easy to work with, and I thought we had some great matches and had a good feud going after a while.
Some of your matches with Rob Van Dam have been considered some of the best matches of ECW fame. Why do you think that is, and was Rob Van Dam as hard to work with as some say he is?
No, he's willing to do anything, and, you know, he's a very gifted athlete, so we always tried pushing the envelope a little farther and coming up with stuff that people hadn't seen before. And every time we went out, we tried to, you know, we didn't want to do the same thing over and over and over, so we tried to come up with something different every time.
Somebody from the chat forum named Jerry Lynn Fan wants to know, what was your most painful match in ECW?
The most painful match in ECW? Boy, that's a tough one, because there's been a lot of painful ones in that. Probably the time I smashed my face on the concrete on that pay-per-view against Rob.
Yeah. I heard a story that you actually had some damage to your head after that one, and Lance Storm drove you to the hospital. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I had to go get some stitches. I needed like 7 stitches in my forehead, that was the 3rd time that month I broke my nose, but they couldn't do nothing with the nose, but I had to go get stitched up.
after a while, you got a main event push in ECW, and you got a chance at the World Heavyweight title, and eventually you won it. What were your memories of holding that title, and how did you learn about it?
Well, I never really got a push in ECW. Paulie would give me an occasional shove when it came time to put someone over, so it would mean more.
Yeah.
And as far as the winning the title, Paulie didn't want to put the belt on me. Justin talked him into it because it was good business. And after he put the belt on me, I mean, you could tell that how thrilled he was to have it on me, because the next pay-per-view it came right off. I'm surprised it lasted that long, actually.
Wow.
Do you blame Paul for the fact that he didn't succeed in WWE?
He might have had something to do with it. I don't know, who knows? I don't know what the real story is. All I was told was creative department couldn't come up with anything, but I don't believe that. There's a lot of political crap going on there all the time, so I know it was politics. And he may have had something to do with it.
You were around for the closing of ECW. Did you see that coming, and what was the locker room like at the last pay-per-view and the last couple of shows? Because I've heard a lot of people give a lot of weird stories about those days.
Well, the morale wasn't very good, wasn't very high, but we always took pride in our work, and we still went out there and put on the best show. And as far as the last pay-per-view, we found out a week before that we were only going to be getting half our paychecks, which we were already like 2 months behind in pay anyway. But, so no one was thrilled about that. And then when people heard RVD was going to be there, well, then everyone was really, a lot of people were pissed off because they knew Rob was getting money, because Rob was boycotting. He wasn't showing up at shows because he wasn't getting paid. So there was a lot of shit going on, and I wasn't thrilled about going because I wanted my whole paycheck. So I showed up at the building, and the minute I got there, I went and found Paulie and asked him if it was true, and I was pissed off when he said yeah. So I almost didn't do it. I went around and talked to a lot of different boys and said I wasn't going to do it. And then finally Rhino talked some sense into me and said half a paycheck's better than nothing. So when it came time to get dressed, I opened up my suitcase. I didn't even pack my tights. That's how thrilled I was to be there.
Wow. How did you learn about the ECW collapse? A lot of people say that they only heard about it when Paul Heyman was on Raw.
I heard about it when the last, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 shows that they had, they didn't even ask me to be there, even, call me with flight info or nothing, and I found out they were having those shows, and that they were like the last farewell shows or something.
Dan,
when ECW actually closed, was you immediately thinking about possibly working with WWE again?
Yeah, right away. I was, on the phone with JR and whatever, and then when they came up to Minneapolis, I went and met with them and had like a half-hour meeting with them.
How much do you think that the sale of WCW ended up hurting the business long run?
Oh, it hurt it big time, because competition's always good for business, and especially it hurt the boys because without another big company to get a job at, you have no bargaining leverage with WWE. So now they can just offer a low downside guarantee and say take it or leave it. So you have no leverage whatsoever when it comes to negotiating your deal.
You suffered a pretty severe leg injury. How much do you think that affected your push in the WWE?
Well, about 3 months after the knee surgery, I got my release. They fired me.
Wow.
Which was pretty disappointing, because I just felt like just a worthless piece of meat when there's other guys there who've had the neck surgery and were out for over a year and they kept them. But, I kind of see the writing on the wall anyway, because after they took the light heavyweight strap off me, I was delegated to just doing heat and jack taping. And then after that, eventually, I was just doing dark matches with guys getting tryouts. So I just figured, I figured after the knee injury, I figured I'd be losing my job.
Mm.
When they put the light heavyweight strap on you, were there plans for you to move up the divisions and go up the card, or was it just kind of a stopgap?
No, I think it was just a test.
Mm.
I don't know, what the hell they'd be testing, and maybe just testing my attitude to see how I would act if I had a belt on me or something. But I don't even know why they bothered.
You worked the WWA Revolution pay-per-view. Were you under WWE contract, and how long in advance did you know that you'd be working on that show?
Was that the...
Yes, that was a February one.
Yeah, no, my contract had just expired 2 days before, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And I called them up on Saturday, or the day before the pay-per-view, to ask them if they'd be interested in using me at all on some upcoming tours. I'd completely forgotten about the pay-per-view. And they said, well, you want to work tomorrow? And I was like, wow. And I told them, no. I said, well, I didn't want to do a match because I hadn't been in the ring in 7 months, and I didn't want to stink up the joint. So they just had me do a run-in and set up an angle.
Before you worked AJ Styles in TNA, you worked him at a WWA pay-per-view. I believe it was Eruption. What were your memories of that match? AJ Styles, I'll share a little story with you, said that he thought you would probably consider him the worst wrestler ever because you kicked him in the mouth really hard. I mean, he kicked you in the mouth really hard.
When you're in the ring, shit happens. You accidentally nail each other pretty hard and stuff. And I've been kicked a lot by RVD, so I'm sure it wasn't as bad as he thought. But actually, I thought he was a great wrestler, and our styles really clicked well. And it's always been fun every time I've gotten in the ring with AJ.
Who pitched the idea of you working for NWA TNA?
Well, since Jeff Jarrett and Jeremy Borash, and I don't know who else were with the WWA, and I think right then they had, I think I talked to them about the NWA thing before it started up, and they said they'd be interested in using me for it.
What were your early opinions of the X Division?
Oh, I thought it was great. They gave us time to go out and the freedom to go out there and do what we can do instead of, the same old political crap of slow it down and tone it down a little. Can't have you outshining the superstars, So, it was awesome.
Dan, you want to take the next one?
So, a couple for you from the forum members. First of all, from forum member Rabel. He said, if you can bring 5 superstars to TNA at this current time, who would they be?
Ooh. Wow. That's tough. I would bring in Super Crazy, Kurt Angle. Great.
Wow.
There's so many all over the country. It's hard. Doug Williams, Johnny Storm. Probably, man, it's tough. You guys are killing me.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I've always been very entertained by Chris Candido. I thought he'd make a great contribution.
That's actually a good question. Why do you think Candido hasn't been brought into TNA?
Who knows? Maybe just because of the past. Maybe they think that he'll be trouble or something like that when he's clean. He's cleaned up his act and he's doing great now. But, people just want to assume the worst all the time.
Dan, was there more from the forums?
Yeah, indeed there are. Another one from forum member Rabel. He said, you've worked for TNA, XPW, WWE, and ECW. How does the current locker room atmosphere in TNA differ from the rest of them?
Well, let's see. I guess it's always been a good locker room atmosphere because everyone wants to go out there and do their best and make the product work, so there's another place for the boys to make a living. So, which has been the same like in XCW and in ECW. The only one that was really different was like WCW and WWF. It's just too much political play going on, and no one's happy there. I mean, you've got guys getting pushes and making major six figures a year, and they're miserable. And you got to think, what's wrong with my company when I got guys making this kind of money and they don't want to come to work?
Another one that's come up recently is with Jeff Hardy being released from WWE. People have asked, did you work with him in WWE at all during your time? And would you like to see him in TNA?
Yeah, I actually dropped the light heavyweight strap to him. And
Told you so, Dan. Sorry, we had an argument before the phone.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And I may have, I think I may have wrestled him in like a 6-man or something like that. That was about it. And yeah, I think he'd be a great attribute to have him come to TNA.
Dan, you have any more for the forums, or should I continue with my questions from TNA? Okay, first, somebody wants to know, how is XPW different for you than TNA is?
Well, it's different for me than TNA.
Do you wrestle differently that you're on live pay-per-view, or is it different?
Yeah, that's the big difference, is TNA has the live pay-per-view, and everything goes down right to the, very second, where XPW was mainly just house shows being taped for, their video distribution or coming up pay-per-view events that they might be doing. So I guess it was a little bit stress-free, a little more stress-free than doing a live pay-per-view.
What are your memories of the first X Division title match?
It was a long-ass night.
Yeah.
Because I actually moved down to Nashville for the very first show. And so I had just got done doing a 4-day loop going back and forth from, I think I was in Canada, in Philly, New York, out to LA, and then I had to get home. And when I got home that day, I had to pick up the trailer, pack it. I had about 3 hours of sleep, and then I headed out, and I drove with the trailer. I think it took me about, roughly 15, 16 hours to get to Huntsville for the TNA show. No, actually, I went straight to Nashville, unhooked the trailer, didn't even unload it, got some sleep, and the next day headed to Huntsville, and we had to do 2 shows that night because they were planning on, we did the first one live, and then we had to tape the second one for the next week right after.
Right.
So I was exhausted. In the first one, we had the 6-man tag with the Flying Elvises, and that was the first match of the first show. Then when we got to the taping the second show, we did the big double elimination X Division title match at the end of the show. And the way it was set up, I was in the ring with, Psychosis,
Low-Key and AJ.
Low-Key and AJ. And the way the falls ended up, I was in there for over, I think, 35 minutes straight.
Wow.
And it was with all 3 different guys. So it was a long-ass night.
Many weeks later, you ended up winning the X Division title. How does that rank in your career highlights?
Oh, it's way up there because it's something that I helped build and establish, and it's just because of that fact, it just means a little more.
How did the company change when Vince Russo came in?
I think it changed to a little more talking than action at some point. And because just, certain parts of certain shows I don't like, that I just didn't trip my trigger with the shows that start out with 15, 20 minutes of talking. I mean, I'm still a wrestling fan, and when I turn on the show to watch wrestling, I want to see some action. I don't want to see 15, 20 minutes of talking right away. That's, but not every show is like that, but there were some shows that started out that way, and I just didn't agree with it.
You worked with Sean. No, you didn't work with Sean Mobley. You worked with AJ when you won the belt back, and then you eventually dropped it to Sonny Siaki. Do you consider Sonny Siaki an X Division wrestler?
At the time, no. But since then, I've seen him on independent shows and stuff, and he's turned it up a few notches since then. So, and a lot of it depends also on, I don't know, I guess on who your opponent is too. So it just, varies on different situations. But at the time I didn't, but now he's really come a long way.
What was your take on being taken out of the X Division title mix and put into more heavyweight matches?
I guess I wasn't thrilled with it. I mean, I looked forward to it because eventually I'd like to be able to wrestle Jeff, because I've never wrestled him. But just some of the opponents they were putting me with, it just wasn't doing anything for me. All it was doing was taking the wind out of my sails.
Like David Flair?
Yeah. I mean, nothing against him, but he's pretty green. And
right.
There's only so much you can do,
What do you think of the future of the X Division?
Future of the X Division?
Yes.
Well, it just depends on, how many matches they give us and what kind of wrestlers they bring in and how much time they give us.
Last night, they had Kid Cash wrestle Trinity, and a woman pretty much stood toe-to-toe with Kid Cash and pretty much did the X Division style with him. How do you think that'll affect the business long run, and do you think you can see her being a star for the company?
Well, I actually don't think they went toe-to-toe, because he basically was really kicking her ass all over the place and really gave her a severe beating.
Yeah.
And what I didn't agree with was the having someone run in on that match, because the people were so much behind her that I think them having those guys run in just kind of gave it a flat finish. Because if she would have done something out of desperation, like gave him a nut shot and pinned him, I think that they would have blown the roof off the place.
I actually agree with you.
Just I think the match was very well done, because besides the finish.
The rumor is that TNA is going to open some sort of a training school. And a couple months ago, Jeremy Borash kept dropping your name as being one of the trainers. How is that progressing, and is there any information you can give us on that?
Yeah, actually, they've been so busy with trying to work out these network deals and stuff, and with, Fox Sports in Australia and Stars World over in Asia and stuff, that it's been sort of on the back burner. But yeah, they've been talking ever since day one that they want me to be the head trainer. So as soon as I got to go to England this weekend, but when I get back, I'm going to go down to the office and sit down and talk to them, and we're going to start and get it rolling. So we'll get something started here.
Are you working the SWA tour this weekend?
No. I would have liked to, but it didn't work out.
You've worked for them before in the past. What's your memories of like working in England? Do you think maybe some stars from England?
If you can't tell, he's British, by the way.
Yeah.
In case you couldn't tell. So such as, Doug Williams and Johnny Storm have made the transition already. Do you feel that other people such as Nikita and people like that can make the transition?
Oh yeah, definitely. They got a lot of tremendous talent over there. And I've had a blast going over there and working with some of the guys.
Right now, you and Sean Waltman are both working with the XPW promotion. Do you think you guys can renew your feud there?
Sean and I have talked about it when he was in TNA, and we talked about and then when he wasn't there at TNA, we talked about doing it for XPW. And there's been independent promoters who want to have us wrestle each other, but we want it to be a big deal because we've got the history behind us where we feuded for 2 years straight, and then we tagged together in Japan, and that worked out well, so we tagged together for a year. And we don't want to just go and wrestle each other just for a match on some indie shows. So we want to get old video footage and put together a whole video package telling the history and the whole story for, when and if it does happen. And we want it to be like, we haven't wrestled each other in probably, at least 11 years. Maybe even 12. No, probably about 11 years. 11 or 12 years. So we want it to be built up as like a rematch of the decade or something, something big.
Got a couple more from the forums before we give you a word association. Got one from Sean Sheridan who says, if WWE were ever to come back to you with a full creative plan and offered you a renewed long-term contract, what would be your reaction?
It would depend on what the money would be, because I wouldn't take a downside guarantee, because then they have no motivation to do something that get their money's worth out of you. So it has to be for a decent contract.
And got one from forum member Every Customer Welcome, who says, how long do you want to continue wrestling for, and what else do you hope to achieve in your career?
I'll keep on wrestling as long as my body holds up and I don't stink up the joint. If I start being the drizzling shits, I'll bow out gracefully. I'm not going to overstay my welcome, I don't think. And what else do I have to achieve? I guess, I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm still hoping to hit that big payday someday.
Dan, you want to do word associations, or should I?
Yeah, I'll do it.
You do it, okay. This will be fun.
We've got the word association, probably played before. Either just give us a run or a one-word answer, whichever springs to your mind. We've got Eric Bischoff.
Eric Bischoff. Oh boy. Damn. I've done him before, but he's a changed person from the old AWA days. Just a completely different person.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
That's a bad thing.
Sting?
Sting.
Sting.
Yes.
Very quiet and to himself.
Joe Pedicino.
Joe Pedicino. Very enjoyable to work for.
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan. Changed the face of wrestling.
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon, a very shrewd businessman.
Vince Russo.
Vince Russo. Very creative.
Rob Van Dam.
My most athletically gifted wrestler in the business.
Tommy Dreamer.
Tommy Dreamer. One of the nicest guys in the business. Give you the shirt off his back.
Conan.
Conan. He's great. He's one of my homies.
Jeff and Jerry Jarrett.
Wow. Oh, wow. I'm, very good minds for the business.
AJ Styles.
AJ Styles. Oh. Another, probably one of the best high flyers.
Francine.
Francine?
Yes.
In ECW, she was always hilarious.
Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman. Oh, boy. How about just owes me money?
Wow. Well, we'd like to really thank you, and on a personal note, I just want to share a little story. When I was in junior high school, I remember when Global was on ESPN, and I used to sit there in the doorway with my hand on the doorknob as soon as the bell rang, just to run home and watch you wrestle the Lightning Kid. That was my favorite gimmick of that, year. I guess it was 91. But God, I love that stuff. So I just wanted to thank you, and I really appreciate that you taking the time to speak with us. It's an honor.
Hey, my pleasure. I'm glad you enjoyed the matches.
Dan, you want to say anything?
So, how can fans reach you if they want to give words of praise, and where will they be able to see you next, including TNA?
Well, I think I'm doing the next Australian tour and pay-per-view for WWA, and
will that conflict with TNA at all, or?
Oh, I'm doing every Wednesday with TNA. Well, yeah, I'm going to be missing that one Wednesday, but I think May 9th I'll be in Orlando doing the MLW show. And the 16th I'll be in New York at the Queens at the Elks Lodge. So I'm getting all over the place.
That's a good question. MLW seemed to just pop out of nowhere with television. What is your opinion of that company?
I think it's great. I mean, the guy brings in a loaded card of wrestlers from all over the place, from Japan, from Mexico, from everywhere. And he puts on a good show, and I'm glad he got a TV deal, because we need to get, I think more of these independent promotions need to get some TV time slots so everyone else out there can realize that WWE is the only show in town. Because I think everyone's fed up with WWE. I mean, their ratings are obviously proving that, and how many people they draw at the shows. And
what is your opinion of the current product?
Oh, horrible. If I want to watch it, I got to videotape it so I can fast forward through it.
Again, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, myself as well. Look out for Jerry on TNA every week, every Wednesday. And again, thanks for speaking with us.
And
thanks for having me.
Thank you. Stay tuned for more from the Interactive Interview.
Enjoying what you're hearing? Be sure and check out WrestlingEpicenter.com on social media at Facebook.com/WrestlingEpicenter, on Twitter at James Epicenter, and of course, WrestlingEpicenter.com for 24-hour news updates, our interview archives, and all the other information you've come to expect from the Wrestling Epicenter.
This is the Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Thank you for having me on your
Good day, everybody. This is James Walsh, and we're back on the Interactive Interview.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
We needed an intro. So I thought I'd provide it.
I thought I should do my evil laugh as the intro.
Oh yeah, that's been requested. So.
That has been requested. Yes, it is. Hey, Dan, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of that interview?
Not bad. Of course, I was obviously desperate to find out who his favourites as a child were. So I asked that question.
And of course, you had to debate me before we got on the phone with him if he wrestled Jeff Hardy or not.
Yes.
I said, I know he dropped the title to him, and you go, I don't think he did. I don't believe he did.
I don't remember that very clearly.
I don't remember that very clearly.
So I said, I want to be sure.
I want to be sure.
Yeah, very funny. Of course, I'll explain that I wasn't in a completely different world when I asked that question the same. It was twice on my question paper from two different readers.
Yes, indeed.
I just decided to ask it again.
And I guess that was kind of my problem.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah, because I sorted through the questions, but I didn't really delete them all. So, because I figured.
It's your fault. There we go. Well done.
Yep.
Thanks for admitting that. Good night.
Yes, I was. It was my fault, but then again, you wanted me to go it alone with him, so
yeah.
I kind of figured I'd be dominating most of the interview anyway, as I do all the time.
I'm just glad you didn't go alone. I would have missed out on a damn good interview.
Yeah, because it was pretty good. And I liked that he laughed at my little story there, because I can remember that so vividly. I can still remember that.
I still remember being in absolute shock when he turned up in WWA. I was in absolute shock.
Were you?
I read the results as they were coming up. They were being posted on that play-by-play on my website.
Right.
And I read the results and I said, nah, it's not Jerry. I was more shocked at that than I was at, like, the return of the NWO or... excluding Eric Bischoff's return on Raw.
Yeah.
That is probably the second most surprised I've ever been. Is seeing Jerry Lynn not being WWE. I was like, what's going on? He just dropped the title. What's going on?
I had to ask him if that was a good or bad thing when he said Eric Bischoff, too. Because a lot of people can say, well, this person's changed, and a lot of people say that about Sting. But usually when they say that about Sting, they're saying that he changed from being a madman to a reborn Christian, which would, in my book, be a good thing. Though if you come up to me and try and sell me on religion too hard, I'll probably say it's a bad thing. I believe in God, but I don't believe in preaching to everybody else.
Well, let's definitely not go down that road.
Why not? It's a holy road. There's holy water at the end, or is it a river?
Don't even go there.
Don't go there?
No.
Don't go there.
I refuse, please.
Refuse?
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, go ahead.
Good. Right. And
you were pretty sure I was going to keep on that subject, weren't you?
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And of course, didn't have the same views as you about Trinity's match on TNA last night.
I actually enjoyed it. The only thing that I did agree with him on was the finish. I do think she probably should have gotten the win on her own, even though in the books and in reality, most people that are reading the results are just going to see Trinity D Kid Cash. So in that way, it was good. But I think he's right. I think she should have gotten the win with moonsault or with some kind of a desperation move out of nowhere. The only thing is, I can't see that being possible, because everything she did, every move she did in that match, was quote-unquote desperation. And if you heard the crowd that night, that definitely, last night's crowd, when they were reacting to that match, that was the most definite heel-face reaction I've heard in the TNA Asylum ever. And that's not saying that because she's a friend of mine. That's unsolicited.
From what I've heard, from the reactions and whatnot, I would have to agree, because that has been, she is definitely the most over female in wrestling currently. You can't deny that. I mean,
Plus, what you saw was almost domestic violence. He slapped her right in the face at the beginning of that interview, and he didn't slap her, he punched her. And I have the inside scoop, and I probably shouldn't crack it, but her jaw went out of alignment when he hit her. So that's how hard she was hit. And that just to show you how serious, like I said to Dan before we got on the air, if you watch that match, that is the most violent they've been to each other. That's the most violent anybody's been to anybody in a match, because they were really laying it in. And why were they really laying it in? Because they had to prove that a woman could stand in there toe-to-toe and take it. And she did. I don't agree that she stood toe-to-toe, but she definitely took it.
Talking of TNA, we've got Jeff Jarrett on the show next week.
Jeff Jarrett on the show next week. Next week's a big show, folks. Jeff Jarrett against Raven for the NWA World Heavyweight title. And Dan, it's the NWA title. It's not the TNA title.
That's the actual NWA title?
Yes.
Right. Why are you trying to correct me on that?
Because I can embarrass you on the air.
Alright. Did I say it was the NWA TNA title?
Yeah, you did.
Ah.
You wrote it on one of the sites that I read. You wrote the NWA TNA World Heavyweight title, which is not that big of a slip-up, but still. If I can correct you, I can correct you.
As long as I wrote it, didn't say it. If I wrote it, then of course I can say, no, that's incorrect. It wasn't actually me who wrote that. It was someone else posting it under my name. But it had to correct, you know.
I think it was on TII that you wrote it, too, on the forums.
Yeah? Oh, dear.
Question for you. How do you spell vicious, as in Sid Vicious? I don't know if that's...
I really, really don't know.
I've been trying to figure that out.
Or V-I-C-I, I don't know.
I used to write V-I-C-I-O-U-S, but when I went to spell check, it kept saying that's not correct.
I'm gonna double check. Sid will be on the show pretty soon.
Yeah, it might be a good idea to spell his name right.
Yeah.
But I think we should just call him a Sid.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's easier to spell vicious when you don't spell that at all. Second of all, he was also Sid Justice.
And he was Sid Judy. And he was Psycho Sid.
And he...
He's always been Sid.
So Sid is like the only constant. I wonder what he thought of that stupid lame comment that Jim Ross said. Suddenly I'm dominant is what Sid stands for. Suddenly? The guy's like 7 feet tall and he dominates everybody he's in the ring with. It ain't sudden. And I don't... Oh, you want to break that story? That Sid's been in the gym quite a bit lately, hasn't he?
Let's keep keep it till the after show of the Sid Vicious interview.
All right.
Thing.
All right, well, we're supposed to be recapping Jerry Lynn. What else do you think of what he said?
Excellent interview. I was... The thing he said about Paul Heyman, I thought he would have laid into Paul a bit more.
You thought he would lay into him more? What did you want to call him? A fat pig Jew?
Yeah.
Jesus, I mean, God, he said everything he could possibly say and still remain professional. I mean, in this business, there's a lot of guys that go out there and out of their way to bury somebody. But the problem is, and people don't realize this, a lot of these guys don't make it that far. And you know why? Because you can't do that. You just can't do that. You can't be...
You have to remain professional, so...
You have to remain professional, and you have to, even if you don't like somebody, you can't go on the show and say, I don't like that person. For example, I'll give you an example. Lollipop. Lollipop was dating Low-Key. Low-Key dumped her after the topless incident on TNA. And if I'm not mistaken, Low-Key hasn't been on TNA since then. That I'm aware of, anyway. Now, when I threw that name in there was a reason for it. Because I thought she was going to fly off the handle and say he was an asshole. But she didn't. And that's why. Because I think she was being professional. Not that taking your top off on a national pay-per-view is very professional either.
You will bring that up over and over and over again, won't you?
Well, about who? About her or just in general?
In general.
No, actually, I was very disappointed in that, and I think I made that clear. Hey,
Over and over.
Nan, have you read my my post on TII lately?
What's that?
James Walsh speaks the truth, or something like that. Tells it like it is. That's how I wrote it. What'd you think of my little speech?
No, I found that interesting because, well, I'm your co-host. So far, I'm reading about your views on all the interviews one by one.
Yeah. Well, I did put you over. I said you did a better job on the Ron Killings interview. Of course, nobody's heard it yet. I said you did a better job than me on that one, for sure.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Well,
I also think I did a better job on the Baldy Kelly interview.
I think you did a better job on that one, too, yes.
And you absolutely ran the Randy Savage interview.
Did I?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You
see,
did what? I'd say 95% of the questions.
I wrote them.
About 75% of the interview. Bob Ryder, you and Bob like long lost brothers or something.
We got to get that one up, too.
We do.
I don't have that perfectly taped. I have that right next to me. I should put that up. That's a great one. We have to do a new recap for that, though.
We do.
Because I was listening to the recap, and I know we probably shouldn't be airing this on the air, but we did a recap where as soon as we recorded it, and we start talking about things that happened on Raw. And the things that happened on Raw happened in February or March. So maybe that wouldn't be too current.
True. We probably need to, work that one out. So,
Indeed we do, Daniel. Indeed we do.
Anyway, in the meanwhile, this is obviously online now.
This is online.
You're listening to it.
Who's watching us?
My little eye.
Where are they?
In my head.
You hear voices?
Mm-hmm.
I see dead people.
I see, and then I see everybody, because I'm in my own.
I see London. I see France. I see Daniel's underpants.
That room is going.
Beg your pardon?
That's not good. We're not the two that live together. We're not the co-hosts that live together.
We're not? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Who is that?
I don't know. Who is that, James?
I have no idea, actually.
What, you really don't?
No, I really don't. Is that WrestleZone?
Mm-hmm.
Ah. Well, that explains why they're trying to get as much money out of people as possible.
That's another question, because we've got our Sean Waltman interview coming up very, 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 very soon.
Should I assume it's going to be very something? Very soon?
What?
Very soon?
It's going to be very soon, I assume.
Very, 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 very soon.
Hopefully. Well, no. Actually, that's a lie, because the next view will probably be Jeff Jarrett.
Jeff Jarrett. What?
Then Bob Ryder.
Bobby Ryder.
Yeah, kind of out of date now. Still.
No, it's not really out of date. The only thing that was out of date about it is some of the little topics. But if you listen to that interview, we talk about things that are just classic, and I say that in James Tells It Like It Is. I say that we talk about James from Kentucky. Hello, everybody. And no, I was not him, so don't ask me. But James from Kentucky was a chicken plucker that used to call World Championship Wrestling's WCW Live audio show. And basically, when WCW was bad, and it got bad for a while, listening to WCW Live, hoping that James would call in, was more entertaining than watching Nitro or Thunder. That guy was just a ball of laughs, and I wish I could get him on this show. How about we get an interactive interview for James the Chicken Plucker from Kentucky?
Well, if he's listening, yeah. Of course, we'll probably get about, what 60, 70 emails now saying, yeah, I'm James the Chicken Plucker.
I have a way of finding out if he was or not. I can, a couple questions.
Well, obviously don't say that, because then... Anyway, so then after that, we've got Bob Ryder, then Ron Truthkilling, and we've got 2 interviews with C.W. Anderson and Buff Bagwell, which...
might or might not go up.
Unfortunately, we had some huge problems with our audio.
Yes, and it got Swiss cheesed. Swiss cheesed.
Now on what, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 8th, millionth recorder?
Yes.
It's costing a hell of a lot of money to keep replacing these.
No, it's not. I just keep putting them in an old box.
Shh. It's costing a hell of a lot of money to replace these. Soon it's probably going to be, $100 a show. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to charge you $100 a show, and we're going to do a terrible job, and we're going to talk about our studio the entire time.
Sounds good.
Yes, people think it's great.
Starting next week. Oh yeah, just relating back to what I was saying today.
But by the way,
what
tag team should we pretend to be? Like, they got Brian Clark. He thinks he's from Clark. So
Brian Clark, it's not Brian Clark.
Brian Clark.
And it's not Matt Bourne doing either. Oh yeah, and okay, I'll quickly run through a couple of things. First of all, we've got to ask Sean Morton about what he thinks about WrestleZone Radio charging $1 for people to hear his interview. So I'm being told that he didn't like it at all. We've got to ask upcoming, possibly...
Well, what I want to know is, does he get paid for that?
No, he doesn't.
If you're that's one of the ideas that I had. When this show started, we were having trouble with bandwidth space. And since then, we switched to Roddy Piper's, and we're pretty much limitless in that regard. When we first got on the show, my idea was that we'd record the interviews, and we'd burn them onto CDs or cassettes, and sell them through the website. But then I thought to myself, that's not being fair. We're taking time out of these wrestlers' schedules. These wrestlers' schedules will break their asses for you people. And we're going to collect the money, and they're not going to get any of it. So I thought, you know what, we just got to have an archives of it, so this way it can be free for everybody. You know why? Because you people deserve better than that. You don't deserve having your pockets raped by a bunch of greedy assholes.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
That's why we have no ad banners on interactiveinterview.com.
Sure we do.
No. We have banners to our affiliates.
That's true.
No ad banners.
Well, I actually want an ad banner.
Oh yeah, well that doesn't really count. That's more of a search the web.
Yeah, but I still want an ad banner.
Refuse.
I want one. I want to go to Click Agents and get one. I get paid.
Shut up. You're one of the people who rape people's pockets.
You sure got pretty pockets.
We've spoken to the webmaster of thehonkyshopman.com.
Yes.
Ryan, who's, of course, one of my bestest buddies in the whole world.
Oh, yes. He actually flipped out when I mentioned your name.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's always been my good friend who spoke to him this morning.
Good
friend who I love dearly. And Ryan, if you're listening, I love you, man. But, yeah.
I love you, too.
Whatever. Yeah, Ryan is, at the moment, too scared to let Wayne on the show because he's worried about the questions I would ask.
I did not have sexual... Okay. Go ahead.
James, go back to sleep. Yeah, so Ryan, the webmaster, is worried about being on the show, so we've kind of come to the conclusion, maybe in the future, we can get Ryan along with Wayne, Man, on the show together, so that if I start asking any questions, then Ryan can start crying, and distract us from the question. So we go on to the next question. That's the general idea.
General idea. Is that anything like General Electric?
No. And Nothing like General from the Austrian Millionaire. Nothing UK thing, alright.
What was that?
Alright, it's a UK thing, you wouldn't get it. It's too foreign.
LAG spot.
And so, future interviews, where was I? Was it Bob Ryder? We've got Ron Madrid Gilling, of course, and the two bit part interviews we've got with DW Anderson and Buff Bagwell. Buff Bagwell, we've got about 75% of that interview, because he's recording trouble. And we're unsure about the DW Anderson interview.
Actually, I am sure about it.
Okay.
You can hear the questions wonderfully. You can't hear any of the answers, but you can hear the questions wonderfully.
Oh, good.
So that should work great. If for those who love our voices, you'll have a ball.
So we'll speak to CW about that.
CW.
See if we can sort it out.
I like CW. Yes,
We
indeed.
haven't had a bad interview, that's all. We've had
Bad recording
interviews,
equipment.
and we've had just good interviews. We haven't had bad ones so far.
I don't know. Ron Killings.
I'm jinxing it. Like,
Ron Killings was a bit of a clunker.
you didn't like that, but I quite enjoyed that.
I don't know. I enjoyed hearing about his earlier life. When we started asking him questions about like the word associations, he didn't want to give us any. He didn't want to give us any dirt.
That's fine. The interview itself was good.
I like dirt.
I don't like rap, so therefore,
I don't like rap.
I don't like really Ron Killings.
Ron Killings. If I can respect a wrestler, I can respect their work in the ring, and that's all that really matters. I don't have to like their choice in music, even though rap sucks.
I think personally the fact that you don't like rap has affected your view of that interview. I quite like it. Maybe with a couple.
How about the fact that I actually get pleasure in knowing that Tupac Shakur is dead? I killed him. I shot him with my guitar gun.
You're really just
Begging for the hate man, aren't I? I shot him with my guitar gun.
anyway. Back to Jerry Lynn.
And the orchestra played on.
Jerry Lynn.
Jerry Lynn. And Daniel, can you roll your R's?
Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn.
Yes, very good. I'm proud of you.
Kid, I've got a question about you. Is your ear attached to the side of your head, or has it no tiny gap? You know the bottom of your ear?
Yeah.
Like that. And can you roll your tongue? I don't need to know, obviously, but it's a question.
Is my ear attached to the side of my head? Well, it's not detachable.
You know what I mean?
I don't wake up in the morning and wonder, where did I leave my ears?
Yeah, the earlobe bit at the bottom.
Yeah, it's attached to my head. Well, it's not attached to my head, but it's attached to my ear.
You're clearly completely missing the point. And can you roll your tongue? Sort of like, okay, I was going to say like this, but obviously since you're on a phone, you can't see me.
Take a picture.
What is my camera phone?
Do you have one?
Yeah. I love it. I'm going to buy an adapter. When I get paid, soon enough, I'm going to buy the £80 adapter so I can get a picture of mine, finally.
I have a picture that I want to put online. I'm going to do it probably through HTML. I want people to see my lovely face. You know what we should do?
What should we do?
We should wrap this up.
The drum player. That's a good idea.
We should wrap this up.
Call Sean Walker.
Yes, and put this in a doggy bag.
Oh.
Put this in a doggy bag, shake it a little bit, and take it home.
You're still mad. It's wonderful.
And we can eat it tomorrow morning out of the refrigerator, freezing cold, just like Chinese food. Speaking of Chinese food, I once called Kevin Nash and asked if he likes eating Chinese. Speaking of that, we're interviewing Jay pretty soon as well. If we get a call back, I don't think we will, but I'm trying to get a call back. I don't know if we will. I'd really like to get a call back.
We have too many interviews coming up, don't
We have too many interviews and not enough time to promote them.
we? Overbooked ourselves.
Let me ask you a question, Daniel. Before we hang up the phone, I got to ask you this.
Yes?
You recorded Johnny Storm, who sounds like a 4-year-old child on the phone. When you recorded that interview and recorded Shock Boy and an insane recap, why is it not on mine?
Okay, well, I did promote that there'd be the interview and the recap of mine. The problem is, the Johnny Storm interview is so hard to hear.
Yes, because he speaks like a 4-year-old child.
No,
He talks like... Dan. You sound 60 compared to the guy. The guy has a 4-year-old child's voice.
I'm 18 in what? Okay, it's gone midnight, therefore I'm 18 in 11 days.
Right.
11 days till 18.
And I'm nearly 22, so...
Whatever. I've got my 18th birthday to come up. I'm going to be...
18.
It's a good job we're recording.
Any Alice Cooper fans in the house?
Because really, I mean, I'm not
Anybody?
in a fit state to record. 8 weeks after that.
I'm 18 and I like it.
Anyway, just to wrap this up, we've got Jeff Jarrett coming up next. And then on the Gold Ride...
Ricky was a young boy, he had a heart of stone.
Bobby the Brain, Sid Vicious, and GG Money, all coming up in the next week.
18 in life, you got it. 18 and life to go. Your crime is time, and it's 18 and life to go.
Of course, goodbye to all the work.
Skid Row and Alice Cooper.
As I get a chance, I'll get that Johnny Storm and Sharp Points you up. And that's that for now.
Singing on 16. I could sing Pristine 16 by Kiss.
13.
And you're 17. She's only 17. 17.
Can't wait.
Like you. Winger. I get to sing Winger too.
I've got £300 sitting in front of me. I'm going shopping tomorrow.
300 pounds? Who'd you kill?
That's like $450.
Oh. Now question. If you people call money pounds, what do you call weights?
Pounds also. Stones.
Doesn't that get confusing?
No. We call it stones and something else, I don't know.
Methinks you all are stones. And let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Do you really sit on the passenger side when you drive?
Our cars are designed the other way around.
Why is that?
Because we drive... What kind of road do you drive?
I don't know.
Right, isn't it? Right.
I don't even drive, so I don't know.
It is, I know for a fact. Because there's one hotel up in London, and it's the only road in England that is the other way around. You drive on the right and you come out on the left. And that's because an American used to own the hotel before he sold it. And he got copyright and he got allowed by the government to change so that you drive on the right. So you drive on the right and you've got your steering wheel on the left, correct?
Yes.
Right. And we drive on the left, so our steering wheel is on the right. Correct?
Yes.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you very much. This has been the interactive interview with Jerry Lynn. Check out for any archives, and check out 3swforums.com to submit your questions for future interviews.
Does this mean I don't get to sing anymore?
Yes, it does. And for anybody, a couple of people on some rival forums said I've got a very high-pitched voice.
High pitch. How about me?
Have I really got a high-pitched voice?
No, but you do sound, like I said, you sound older than Johnny Storm. Right. Johnny Storm talk like this.
And then we'll see.
I'm lovely. Give me a blowjob.
Thank you very much. This is Daniel Adler from the Interactive Interview. Check it out.
Wow!